The Young and the Restless spoilers shock Tuesday full episodes April 1st, 2025 update. In the frenetic undercurrent of Genoa City's ever-twisting drama, tension was mounting on several fronts. As the new week dawned, Chloe's relentless pressure on Sally had set off a chain reaction that threatened to unravel long-held alliances. With the close of episode 6, it was unmistakably clear that both Phyllis Summers and Sally were seething over Billy Abbott's decision to cooperate with the enigmatic Aristotle Dumas, a man whose shadowy presence had now intruded into the Abbott camp. Earlier that evening, in a sleek conference room at the Abbott estate, Billy had tried desperately to make his case. Leaning forward with earnest intensity, he explained to Phyllis the rationale behind his actions. Dumas offered me a plan, a way to steer Chancellor away from the Newman dynasty. I couldn't refuse it. This isn't just about business. It's about preserving our future. Billy's words were laced with conviction as he recounted how Dumas's proposal was not an invitation to a dangerous game but rather a strategic maneuver. To his credit, he even promised that he would settle old scores with Victor, quietly. Behind the scenes, insisting he had already moved past their bitter history and would not stoop to the manipulative tactics of the past. Yet, as Billy's explanation unfolded, Phyllis's frustration steadily grew. Her brow furrowed and her voice edged with anger. "Billy," she snapped, "how can I trust you when you keep twisting the truth? One minute you say you're out of those petty games, and the next you're dancing with someone who wields secrets like weapons." Phyllis's skepticism was not unfounded. Both she and Sally felt betrayed. Believing that Billy had deceived them not only about his intentions but also about the real stakes involved. Their shared discontent was palpable, two powerful women united in their disillusionment over a man who had promised more than he could deliver. Away from the glare of the Abbott household, in a quiet, dimly lit corner of a private lounge, Nikki had arranged a clandestine meeting with Victor. With furtive glances and hushed tones, she warned him of a growing threat. Dumas was inching ever closer to the Winters family. "Victor, there's something you need to know," Nikki confided, her voice trembling with a mix of urgency and trepidation. "Dumas isn't just a business player, he's a predator who could very well be targeting our loved ones." Victor's steely gaze hardened as he absorbed the news. His long-standing rivalry with Dumas was legendary, and this new information only deepened his resolve to confront an adversary who had been lurking in the shadows for far too long. Meanwhile, across town, another mystery was beginning to take shape. Lily, along with Devon Hamilton and Nate Hastings, had been quietly questioning the sudden arrival of Damien Kane. Rumors swirled that Damien was not simply a visitor but might in fact be orchestrating a far more sinister enterprise. "Why is Damien suddenly at the helm of these companies?" Devon questioned during a tense conversation, his tone laced with suspicion. "These firms, if you look closely, are assets belonging to Dumas," Nate added. "It's as if he's been quietly handed the reins of a hidden empire." The trio's conjecture echoed the growing paranoia that the powerful Aristotle Dumas was not working in isolation. Instead, his influence might be seeping into every corner of Genoa City's corporate world. The intricate rivalry between Victor and Dumas had long been a cornerstone of the city's underworld, and new clues suggested that the conflict was far from over. Upcoming revelations were poised to expose that Lily's vitriolic remarks about Damien were not entirely her own. They might have been influenced by selective information fed to her by none other than Mustache, a shadowy figure whose loyalty and motives were as murky as the deals he brokered. Mustache had hinted at dire secrets in half-truths, leaving Lily to wonder whether the damning evidence she'd been given was the product of his own agenda or simply a misinterpretation of the facts. The simmering conflict reached a boiling point one stormy evening when Lily finally confronted Damien in a secluded corner of a downtown cafe. With eyes ablaze and voice tremulous with anger, she demanded, "Damien, I need to know, what the hell are you and your boss Dumas really up to? Are you running these companies on your own accord, or are you just another pawn in his game?" Her tone was accusatory, each word a challenge that reverberated with both personal betrayal and professional disillusionment. Damien's calm demeanor wavered for a split second before he replied. Lily, believe me, there's more to this than what meets the eye. Everything is not as it seems. But his vague reassurance did little to calm her fury. Was her discovery based on her own investigative instincts, or was it simply the product of Victor's covert warnings? The uncertainty gnawed at her, leaving her questioning the veracity of everything she'd been told. The conversation between Lily and Damien took on the cadence of a chess match, each probing question and guarded response adding another layer to a puzzle that threatened to upend established alliances. Lily pressed, "Mustache didn't tell me everything. He left out key details. So I need to hear it from you. Are you in league with Dumas, or are you working to protect us from him?" Damien hesitated, his eyes reflecting the internal battle between loyalty to his mysterious employer and his own buried sense of honor. "I can't reveal all I know," he murmured. "But trust that I'm doing what I believe is right for everyone involved." His cryptic reply only fueled Lily's suspicions further. Back at the Abbott estate, the fallout of Billy's earlier conversation with Phyllis was rippling through the halls. Sally, still reeling from the deception, now found herself caught in a web of conflicting loyalties. Chloe's earlier pressure had pushed Sally to confront her own doubts about whether cooperating with Dumas was a calculated risk or a fatal misstep. As she mulled over the events of the past few days, Sally couldn't shake the feeling that they were all hurtling toward an inevitable confrontation. "We trusted Billy," she thought bitterly. "And now we're left with nothing but half-truths and broken promises." The tension was palpable, as if every whispered secret and furtive glance was a harbinger of further betrayal. In a moment of rare vulnerability, Billy himself reflected on the consequences of his choices. Alone in his study, he stared at the documents and contracts that outlined Dumas's shadowy plan to separate Chancellor from the Newman clan. "I did what I had to do," he reassured himself, though the lie tasted bitter on his tongue. Deep down, he knew that by siding with Dumas, he had risked not only his own reputation but also the trust of the two most influential women in his life. With every word he had uttered to justify his actions, he had sown seeds of doubt that now threatened to grow into a full-blown rebellion against his authority. As the days passed and the drama intensified, the interlaced fates of these characters began to converge toward an explosive climax. Victor and Dumas's age-old feud provided a stark backdrop to the personal vendettas that were being played out in boardrooms, back alleys, and intimate cafes alike. Lily's confrontation with Damien was set against a tide of revelations that promised to shake the foundations of Genoa City's power structure. And in the midst of it all, Mustache's selective disclosures left everyone questioning who was truly in control, the man pulling the strings from behind the scenes, or the very figures who had long been at the center of this labyrinthine drama. In this volatile landscape, every alliance was temporary and every promise precarious. With Chloe's relentless pressure on Sally, the simmering discontent of Phyllis and Sally over Billy's secretive pact with Dumas, and the dangerous implications of Damien's involvement in Dumas's empire, it was clear that the coming weeks would test loyalties like never before. As Lily's voice rose in anger and accusation, demanding answers from a man who remained frustratingly opaque about his true intentions, the city braced itself for the inevitable fallout. What remained uncertain was whether the damning revelations and fractured alliances would lead to redemption or ruin. With secrets poised to burst forth from the shadows and old rivalries reigniting with renewed ferocity, every character in Genoa City was left to wonder. In a world where truth is manipulated at every turn, who among them could truly claim to be the master of their own destiny? The stage was set. And as the next chapter of this tangled saga approached, one thing was clear: trust, once broken, is a rare commodity in Genoa City. And with every lie, every half-truth, and every secret kept in the dark, the threat of complete upheaval loomed ever larger, promising to upend not just individual lives, but the very legacy of the families that had defined this city for generations. This narrative captures the growing tensions and dangerous liaisons between Chloe, Sally, Phyllis, Billy, and the others, while weaving in the mystery of Aristotle Dumas's schemes, the long-standing feud between Victor and Dumas, and the volatile confrontations that are about to reshape alliances. The intricate interplay of personal betrayal, corporate intrigue, and shadowy secrets ensures that every character's next move will be watched with bated breath, as the truth slowly emerges from the murky depths of deception. Over the weekend, a sparkling celebration brought together several members of the Newman clan. A rare moment of unity in a family known for its tangled loyalties. Nikki found herself reluctantly swept up in the festivities alongside Victor, Nick, and Victoria Newman. All gathered to toast the long-awaited reunion of Adam Newman and Chelsea Lawson Newman. Despite her long-held reservations about Adam, Nikki couldn't help but notice that he seemed more candid, more on target than ever before, a fact that, much to her chagrin, lent him a certain unexpected credibility. In the midst of clinking glasses and cheerful banter, the atmosphere was a delicate balance of old rivalries softened by the lure of fresh beginnings. Victor, ever the charismatic patriarch, led the toast with his usual suave assurance, while Nick and Victoria added their own enthusiastic support. Yet even as the celebratory spirit filled the room, Nikki's thoughts wandered. She wasn't a devoted fan of Adam. His reputation had always been a complicated mix of brilliance and backstabbing, but tonight, his demeanor hinted at a transformation that demanded a grudging respect. Still, the celebration was only a brief respite from the chaos that invariably followed the Newman family. No sooner had the toasts ended than Nikki's evening was unexpectedly cut short. Her closest friend, Lauren Fenmore, reached out with an urgency that couldn't be ignored. In the aftermath of the recent GCAC saga, the two women had found a quiet solace in shared lunches and whispered confidences. Now, Lauren's voice, laced with both pain and determination, drew Nikki away from the merriment. Their plans for a long, leisurely Monday were abruptly postponed as Lauren insisted on a private meeting, a conversation that promised to shift the course of Nikki's world. Later that week, in a subdued corner of an upscale cafe, Lauren's sorrow and frustration were unmistakable. The pain in her eyes betrayed years of personal struggle, years of watching the forces of deception and betrayal tear apart the lives of those she cared about. With an intensity that belied her gentle tone, Lauren began to lay bare her reasoning. "Nikki," she said softly yet firmly, "I need you to understand something about Victor. It isn't just about the usual power plays or family rivalries. It's deeper than that." Lauren's words carried an undercurrent of urgency, a plea for Nikki's loyalty in a battle that had grown too dangerous to ignore. Lauren's request was as shocking as it was unsettling. She needed Nikki to turn her back on her husband, Victor. To betray the man who, for all his charm and commanding presence, had become the architect of a scheme that threatened to bring ruin upon those around him. The target of this dangerous plot was none other than Michael Baldwin, who had found himself ensnared in one of Victor's elaborate conspiracies, a conspiracy designed to obliterate Jack Abbott once and for all. Lauren's revelation painted a stark picture. Victor, with his calculated moves and hidden agendas, was orchestrating a plan that could very well decimate the Abbott legacy. For Nikki, the notion of betraying Victor was a bitter pill to swallow. Her life had been defined by the constant balancing act between loyalty and self-preservation, a dance she had perfected over years of navigating the treacherous currents of Genoa City. But Lauren's plea struck a chord deep within her. The pain in Lauren's voice, the palpable hurt that had been building ever since the collapse of GCAC, made it clear that this wasn't just another political maneuver or fleeting moment of personal vendetta. This was personal, and the ramifications of inaction could be catastrophic. Lauren pressed on, her eyes filled with a mixture of desperation and resolve. "Victor is the reason I need you, Nikki. He's the one who's been manipulating every move, dragging Michael Baldwin into his schemes to take down Jack. You know as well as I do that nothing in this town is ever as it seems. I'm asking you to see it for yourself." To recognize that your loyalty to him is putting us all in danger. The gravity of Lauren's words hung in the air, each syllable loaded with the weight of unspoken history and the promise of future betrayals. Nikki listened, torn between her love for Victor and the undeniable evidence of his calculated cruelty. The celebration earlier that weekend, a night of clinking glasses and fleeting smiles, now felt like a distant memory, overshadowed by the impending storm that Lauren's revelations heralded. Was Victor truly capable of orchestrating such a far-reaching plot against his own family? And more importantly, could Nikki muster the strength to confront the man she once trusted implicitly? In that moment, the lines between friend and foe, loyalty and betrayal, blurred dangerously. Nikki's heart ached at the thought of turning against Victor. Yet the alternatives were equally harrowing. She knew that Lauren wasn't making these accusations lightly. There was a sincerity behind every word. A raw vulnerability that spoke of the countless times Victor's machinations had hurt those around her. The betrayal, if it came to pass, would not be an impulsive act of defiance but a calculated decision born from a profound understanding of the stakes at hand. As their conversation drew to a close, the implications were clear. The celebration of Adam and Chelsea's reunion had been a temporary illusion, a brief moment of light before the long, dark night of revelations and retribution. Lauren's plea was a call to arms. A desperate bid for Nikki to realign her loyalties and step away from the man who had long mastered the art of deception. The task ahead was daunting. To expose and dismantle Victor's web of conspiracies, beginning with his sinister plot against Michael Baldwin and Jack Abbott. The weight of the decision loomed large over Nikki as she left the cafe, her mind a tumult of conflicting emotions. The vibrant energy of the Newman celebration, the bittersweet acknowledgement of Adam's newfound transparency, and the painful urgency of Lauren's words converged into a single, piercing truth, in the cutthroat world of Genoa City. Trust was a fragile commodity, and the cost of betrayal could be the very downfall of the family she once believed in. Now, as the new week beckoned, Nikki was faced with a crossroads. Would she heed Lauren's desperate call to betray Victor, a betrayal that could shatter her world, or would she cling to the remnants of loyalty and hope that had defined her life thus far? The answer, wrapped in layers of uncertainty and personal sacrifice, would not only determine her own fate but could very well set the course for the battle lines in a war that had been silently raging for years.